And this part of the lesson now focuses on not the amplitude, but the period, right? So we know that, let's say, a sine function will look like this, right? And it completes one cycle from 0 to 2 pi. Is that right? But now, waves are everywhere around us, right? And there are many, many different types of waves. Okay, one place where we see waves is in music. So let's say if you play a C versus a D versus an F, the wave looks different. So a C might look like this, a D might look like this, an F might look like this, okay? Also, light, any form of light is a wave, right? It's electromagnetic waves. So if you have visible light, you might have, something like that red wave. Now, what's the deal with like microwaves and X-rays? How do those look? An X-ray would be something that looks like this, okay? A gamma ray, even faster. So if I get rid of this one and this, if you look at these three, right? Look at the red wave and then look at the blue wave. So do you see how the blue wave completed one cycle in much less time, right? It was a much shorter interval. So whereas the red one went from 0 all the way to 2 pi, the blue one finished much faster. How about the green one? It just took this much time for it to complete one cycle. So look, does that look like it's halfway from 0 to 2 pi? Right? It looks like it finished one cycle from 0 to pi only. So these have modified periods. And so today we're going to talk about how we're going to graph something like that. How we know when it starts, when it ends, and then how we draw it. Okay. So yes, last time I told you that this is what the function looks like for sine, and this is what it looks like for cosine. And we said amplitude was determined by the factor A. Okay, today we're going to focus on B. B helps us find the period of the function. In fact, in order to find the period, it's always 2 pi over B. So period is 2 pi over B for sine and cosine. You have to memorize this. All right, so memorize this. That period for sine and cosine is found by doing 2 pi over B. Okay, and what is B? B is always the number that comes between sine and cosine and the x. All right, so it's the number right before the x. Okay, so let's find the period for these functions here. Look at this one, sine of 2x. This number that's immediately before, like the coefficient of x, that's B. So for the period, it's 2 pi over B, which is 2 pi over 2, which is just pi. Okay? That we'll do later. Okay, what about here for cosine of 3x? What's B? How much is B here? B is 3. So the period is 2 pi over 3. If it needs to be simplified, please simplify. If it doesn't need to be simplified, then it's fine. Yeah.
It is not negative pi for a, it can be negative. Like, why would it be negative?
Because, the formula is just 2 pi over B. So whatever B is, in this case, B is 2. Right, so just do 2 pi over that number. There is no negative or positive.
I saw the equal sign.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's an equal sign. Sorry. Here. Okay. All right. For C, what's the value of B? 1/2. This is B. So the period is 2 pi over 1/2. That's the same as 2 pi times 2 over 1, 4 pi. The 2 here, that's A, and that gives you amplitude. Right, not for the period. That has no effect on the period whatsoever. Okay, what about the next one? What's B? 1/5. So period is 2 pi over 1/5. Right, 2 pi times 5 over 1, 10 pi. Okay. Here, B is 0.25, which is the same as 1/4, right? So we do 2 pi over 1/4, 2 pi times 4, 8 pi. Okay, when you're showing work, show me that first step. If you would like to do the second step for yourself, feel free. You can go, for my purposes though, from the first step to the last, okay? What about here? It's 2 pi over what?
3 pi.
2 pi over 3 pi. The pi's cancel and it's just 2 over 3. That's okay. All right, let's graph one. Okay. So here we have sine of x, and then we have sine half x. So first let's figure out the period for G. B is 1/2. 2 pi over 1/2 is how many pi?
4 pi.
4 pi. Okay. Here's how we're going to graph this. What you're going to do is you're going to take the stuff that comes after the sine, okay? In this case, it's half x. Now, what was the default period for the sine that you were graphing for the homework today? It goes from 0 to
2 pi.
2 pi. So what you do is you say 0 to 2 pi, like this. For every single problem involving a sine or a cosine, the stuff in the purple is gonna remain constant, okay? The only thing that changes is the blue, and you get it from the equation. Now we need to solve this for x. So I need to get rid of the half, meaning I multiply by 2, and I multiply by 2 on all sides, just like we did in algebra. The 2 and the half go away. Then I have 0, x, 4 pi. Okay, so that is my graphing region. So when it says graphing region, it's 0 to x to 4 pi. Okay, now this tells me the new beginning and end of my graph, okay? So this is the beginning or the start, and this is the end of the cycle. So now I draw my x-axis just like I did on last night's homework, or whatever, the homework for today. Okay, here I need to put the first tick mark, and that's 0, right? That's the start. And then I need to go over 1, 2, 3, 4. And over there I put 4 pi. All right? So do you see whatever you solved for here are the first and last here. Now, after that, I need to fill in the numbers for the other tick marks. So this one here, I'll color code it. That red one, it's halfway from 0 to 4 pi. How much is it? 2 pi. Okay, this blue is halfway from 0 to 2 pi, 1 pi. The green is halfway from 2 pi to 4 pi, and how much is that? 3 pi. Because how do you do it? How do you do it? It's halfway between 2 pi and 4 pi. Right? That's how we do it. So it's half of 6 pi, which is 3 pi. Okay, and now this is the hardest part of it. And then you ask yourself, wait, what was I graphing? Sine. And the rest is like what you did on the homework, right? So graphing sine means I start on the axis. Amplitude is 1, so I go up 1, 0, minimum, 0, oh, and there. Okay, so that's g of x. Okay, so what's different here? Instead of starting at 0 and ending at 2 pi, it now ends at 4 pi. So if I were to graph this first one, it would have looked like this, right? Started at 0 and ended at 2 pi, but now look, this one finished, like it took longer to finish. Okay? All right, let's do another one. Cosine 3x, what's the period? 2 pi over 3. Okay, so now, again, it's 0, 2 pi. What goes in the middle? Well, it's that. It's 3x. 3x goes in the middle. Oh. Huh? You do, because you know what? More and more things are going to get complicated. And then you'll see that you can't do it without doing this. I know this one's obvious. You could already tell that it's from 0 to 2 pi over 3. But then we're going to do stuff with a phase shift too. And then even I wouldn't do that in my head. Okay? So divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. And this goes from 0 to 2 pi over 3. So my graphing region is from 0 to 2 pi over 3. Okay. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 pi over 3. Okay, here there is a little bit of math we have to do. This first red one, okay, it's the halfway between 0 and 2 pi over 3. So 0 plus 2 pi over 3, half of 2 pi over 3, 1 pi over 3. Okay, so I don't want to go too slow and make it super long, but also I don't want to go so fast that you're not catching up. So if you have any questions, stop me and ask. Okay, for this blue one here, it's halfway between 0 and pi over 3, right? Like if you talk it out like that to yourself, it's easier to remember. So I'm looking for midpoint, and midpoint is you add the two ends and divide by 2. This is halfway of pi over 3. How much is that? Pi over 6. Okay. Now for the green one here, that's halfway between the red and the black. So halfway between pi over 3 and 2 pi over 3. That's halfway between 3 pi over 3, which is half of pi, so pi over 2. Again, this is probably going to be where you do most of the work. Once you do that, then we are experts at graphing cosine. I start here at 1, 0, -1, 0, 1. Okay? All right. What? So this next one, not only do we have a modified period, but look at what the amplitude is here. The amplitude is 2, right? So we're going to go up 2 for this one. But let's leave that aside for a minute. That's your B value. So the period is 2 pi over 2, which is pi. For the graphing region, we go from 0 to 2 pi, and in the middle, I put 2x. So how do I get rid of that 2 in the middle? Divide by 2, or multiply by 1/2. So my graphing region is from 0 to pi. X-axis, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, pi. Okay, so halfway is pi over 2. What's that first point?
0.
Pi over 4. And then pi over 2 to pi, that point is 3 pi over 4. Okay, now look at my function. It's 2 cosine 2x. My amplitude is 2. That means I'm not going to start at 0 because it's cosine, but I'm also not going to start at 1. I start at 2, go to 0, -2, 0, 1. 2. Okay. Okay. For every one of these, right? Okay, look at this first one. How many units is it from the beginning to the end? From 0 to 4 pi, how many units? 4 pi, right? What's the period? 4 pi. All right? So make sure that, all those connect. So look at this one. It starts at 0, finishes at 2 pi over 3. So that length is 2 pi over 3. Is that what we got for the period? Yes, it is. All right. Let's talk about frequency. So period is how long it takes for one wave to complete. Now, look at this wave here. Imagine there was a platform here. And imagine you were lying down on this platform face down. This is how I'm going to draw somebody lying down on the platform face down. That's like the extent of my artistic abilities, right? And so now you're looking down, okay? And you've got a stopwatch. And you have to time, right? Within each 10 seconds or within each minute or 1 second, how many waves are going to pass under you, right? So this wave here, this wave is moving this way, right? And so now you're looking down at the wave, looking at the waves pass by, and you have to time, in 1 minute, how many waves will pass by? In 2 seconds, how many waves will pass by? So if we go back here, right, look at the red wave, and imagine you're looking at the red wave passing by, and then look at the green wave, right? In 1 minute, is more of the red wave going to pass by you, or the green or the red one? The green or the red? Which one is going to pass? More of the green will pass by you, right? That's frequency. All right? So something like an X-ray has a very high frequency. Okay. All right. So frequency, wouldn't you know it? is 1 over the period. So it's b over 2 pi. It's the reciprocal of the period. So let's find period and frequency here. Okay, so for period, what's b for this function? 1. So period is 2 pi over 1, which is 2 pi. Frequency, just take the reciprocal, 1 over 2 pi. All right? These are the frequency, usually are free points when I ask you for frequency. So once you find the period, just take the reciprocal. Here, b is 4. So what's the period? Pi over 2. So the frequency, 2 over pi. Okay? All right, so phase shift. When does phase shift happen? What is phase shift? Phase shift moves the graph horizontally. Oh. Okay, either left or right. So look at this. Remember how sine, it starts at the origin like that? Right? Look at where it starts. Right? Somebody moved it to the right by that much. Okay? All right. So, let's see how we're going to graph this one. Okay, amplitude. What's the amplitude for this function? 2. Okay, period. 2 pi over b. That number, the coefficient of the x is b. In this case, it's 1. So it's just 2 pi. Frequency. Do I have to do any new math for the frequency? No, just take the reciprocal.
1 over 2.
Uh-huh. Okay, phase shift. For the phase shift, we're going to take this x minus pi and set it equal to 0 every single time. So now you add pi, so x is pi. Okay, that's what phase shift is. All right, so how are we going to graph this? We're going to do the same exact thing. Remember how we were going from 0 to 2 pi? This time, I need to put this entire thing in the parentheses, right? So x minus pi. Okay, now add pi everywhere. Okay. So here I have 0 plus pi is pi, x, 3 pi. So my graphing region goes from pi to 3 pi. So pi, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 pi. All right. So how do I find the stuff in the middle? What's this red one in the middle? It's halfway from pi to 3 pi. Half of 4 pi. So 2 pi. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and find the green and the blue. So to graph, we start on the axis, right? And then where do we go? Up to 0, down to 0. Okay, let's do one last one. All right, what's the amplitude here? 4. Okay, period. For the period, I need b. So look at this one. It's x over 2, meaning what's b? Not 1. So x over 2 is the same as half x, right? So b is equal to 2. I'm sorry, 1/2. Okay, so it's 2 pi over 1/2, 4 pi. Frequency, 1 over 4 pi. So how do we do phase shift? We're going to take this and set it equal to 0. Okay, what do I do for the pi over 3? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Subtract pi over 3. So x over 2 is negative pi over 3. And then multiply everything by 2. So x is negative 2 pi over 3. Okay. Yeah. And that means that it's moved over to the left, the negative side, by 2 pi over 3 units. Okay, now we need to figure out our graphing region. So we're going to take x over 2 plus pi over 3 and then set it from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so here's where we have to do some math, right? Okay, minus pi over 3. I get negative pi over 3. Okay, here, how am I going to do 2 pi minus pi over 3? Common denominator. So that's going to be 6 pi over 3 minus pi over 3. So 5 pi over 3. All right, next I need to multiply everything by 2. So I get negative 2 pi over 3 x 10 pi over 3. All right, so negative 2 pi over 3. This is where it's good to skip a space because you get room to write. Okay, now we need to find the midpoints of these, right? So for each one, I have to do half of what it's the midpoint of. Okay, the red one, it's half of the midpoint of negative 2 pi over 3 plus 10 pi over 3. So it's half of 8 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3. Okay? All right. Go ahead and find the blue and the green. And then once you're done finding those 2 points, you can go ahead and graph.